Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. And today we have Kapil Kochhar, the chairman and CEO of Doubt Connect. And today we're speaking about AI for good. So, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to speak more about just your thoughts on AI for good and what we can do in the future to kind of improve.
Thanks, Kat. Very excited to be on this show.
Yeah, definitely. We're so excited to have you. Kapil, could you tell us more about your background and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I've been someone who's always been at the intersection of technology and business. Originally from Bombay, India, where I got my bachelor's in computer engineering. And then after that, I spent about 3 years in India trying my hands at, various things. Before I actually moved to the US in 2013 and got my MBA from Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. After that, I spent about 5 years at Ericsson in various capacities. But most recently, I was serving in the capacity of Director of Strategy and Business Planning. But then late last year, I had to come down to India during the pandemic to tend to my family. Then I decided to stay back and switch careers and pursue my dream of being an entrepreneur. So, right now, currently, I serve as the chairman and CEO of a very innovative and exciting edtech startup, which we call Doubt Connect.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I'm excited to jump more into what you're doing at Dow Connect and kind of the missions that the company is working on. In your thoughts, what are some ways that AI can be used for good?
Firstly, I feel it's important to define what's good and what's not good when it comes to AI. In my opinion, in principle, AI is for the good if the algorithm works to benefit the party whose data is being collected and analyzed. But that point in itself can, fall under a gray area if the beneficiary is not explicitly granting access to its data. And that's why we see, right, policymakers are now actively protecting consumer rights when it comes to privacy policy. So if every move of mine is, like being tracked and I'm shown ads the very next second on multiple social media platforms, then that, according to me, is not AI for good. So it's very important for us to define what AI for good is and what is not considered AI for good. So then AI for good, according to me, is when I actively provide my data to be analyzed and in it turn benefits me. So for instance, in the field of education, AI for bad would be something like snooping on a student, talking to a friend who's discussing his struggles with a math problem. And then the moment he hangs up his phone, he's shown an ad of a math tutor in the area. In that case, the data of the student was used to benefit the tutor who paid for to advertise and target such a student. Versus if we change the scenario a little, if the student's data is used to understand his problems and then solutions are provided to him, then that would be, using AI for good. So basically, to summarize, I just say that, keep the focus on the beneficiary, design your AI algorithms to maximize their benefit, and wrap it with a monetization strategy for which the beneficiary themselves pay instead of the advertisers.
Yeah, definitely. Great insight. And how have you been involved with AI for good in either social or economic aspects?
Sure. I'll talk a little about what we're doing at Doubt Connect, and then I'll also throw some light on how I was involved previously with my various roles at Ericsson. So at Doubt Connect currently, we keep the focus on the students and their needs. Our ultimate objective is to improve learning outcomes of each and every student. So for that, it's important to recognize each and every individual's unique learning needs and learning capabilities. We do that by tracking their progress over time and providing them with the appropriate learning resources when they need it. We use their data to improve their performance and also at the same time equip them to make their own decisions based on their data. So in a way, making them, self-sufficient. So instead of selling a student's data to potential advertisers, we use the data to inform the student himself or herself, inform his or her teachers and parents of that student's learning needs. So that's how we are using AI for good at Doubt Connect. And then at Ericsson, I was part of a new venture that was geared around building a smart city from scratch. And then we were using AI heavily to run various departments of a city optimally and at the same time provide each resident with a digital assistant that manifests individual intentions in the city. So think of it as a two-way strategy, right? Number one, we want to benefit each and every resident in the city. And number two, collectively at an aggregate level, how can we, understand what the citizens are up to and what their needs are, and then optimize the overall operations of the city. I'll give you an example about what I mean by that. So let's say if I want to hail a ride within the city, my digital assistant would know what my preferences are for a ride. For example, the type of car I like to ride in, the music I want to listen to. So when it arrives, the experience of the ride is already personalized. It's already playing the music I want. It's already set to the temperature I like, just for an example. But at the same time, I'm connected to the city's overall traffic management system, and they are able to manage the flow of overall traffic by knowing where each resident is headed and dynamically, managing the traffic lights. So you are providing a personalized experience. At the same time, you are solving for a much larger problem, that is, traffic in metro cities.
Yeah, no, that's some great insight. And how can AI and data science be used to improve specifically the education sector? I know you touched on that a bit, but what are some other ways that it can kind of improve this sector?
So I believe that there is huge scope for using AI the correct way in the education sector. The focus should be on personalizing the education experience for each and every student, understanding individual needs. That still remains the focus. A lot of edtech companies are focusing on just delivering digital content to the students, but I believe content will become a commodity. The need of the hour is to understand the unique learning needs of a student and then delivering the right content. Something like Netflix, right? Your Netflix experience versus mine is going to be very different because they have figured a way to personalize the experience for you. They have the content itself, the entire library remains the same, but what they suggest you as the next thing that you should watch is really what's personalized. That's where I feel AI can play, the biggest role in education. And then AI can also be used to understand over a longer period of time, to understand the strengths and weaknesses of a student, which in itself will help them understand what career paths can they pursue based on their strengths, and then guiding them in that direction. So that's how I see AI being used in education. Short term, just helping them improve their learning outcomes by personalizing the experience, and then in the long term, connecting them with the right career paths. That's how I feel if people are put in the right places where they are able to perform at a much higher level, then that obviously relates to increase in productivity and improvement in GDP.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some ways that other people can get involved with projects related to AI for good?
Well, the good news is that data is freely available in each and every industry, so that's no longer a concern. I believe that the focus needs to shift onto the end user. Right now, a lot of industries I feel can change their business model. There's a lot of room to improve their business model. So rather than using their data to monetize and selling it to advertisers, if they can figure out a business model that generates revenue from the end user itself, then I believe that they can convincingly claim that they're using AI for good.
Yeah, definitely. And Kapil, I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today on the Data Standard episode. We at the Data Standard, we're trying to build a community where everyone can just kind of network and collaborate with each other. So, what is something that we can do for you?
No, this all sounds fantastic. I'm always happy to network with like-minded professionals. So yeah, I would love to connect with people, tackling similar issues in education, mainly, using technology and data to help improve learning outcomes and personalize the experience for the students.
Yeah, fantastic. And where can everyone find you online to connect?
Yeah, I am active on LinkedIn, so happy to connect with like-minded folks. And you can also check us out on doubtconnect.in.
Yeah, perfect. And to our audience, for more information on the Data Standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io, as well as on our LinkedIn and YouTube channel. And thank you so much, Kapil, for joining us. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show today, just to learn more about the education sector and AI for good. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Catherine, for this wonderful opportunity. I enjoyed sharing a little bit about my experience, and I look forward to hearing from other professionals in the industry and look forward to hearing their views as well. So appreciate your time today.